All right, how is it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Forward Thinking Founders, where we're talking to founders about their companies, their visions for the future, and how the two collide. Today, I'm so excited to be talking to Domm Holland, who is the creator, the CEO of Fast. Domm, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm super intrigued into what you're building at Fast, and I'm just really excited to dive in. And with that, let's kind of go right into the product. Can you describe kind of what Fast is?
Yeah, definitely. So we describe Fast as the world's fastest login and checkout. So the idea is it's a one-click login and a one-click checkout. That we have the one-click login is a live product that's available today in sort of general release. And the one-click checkout is coming early next year. The idea is that we sit as a third-party network to scale authentication and checkout between businesses, so the consumers they don't need to use passwords, so we completely eliminate passwords, but they don't need to continually re-authenticate themselves. They don't need to fill in credit card forms or shipping details and name and sort of arbitrary forms over and over. So we make life of consumers very, very easy and very fast.
So let's dive into kind of each of those specific verticals. So for the one-click login, let's say, later today, I log into Airtable, I put in my manual information, and I also need to log into HubSpot, right? I put in my manual information. If I was using Fast, can you describe to me what that process would look like and feel like?
Yeah, so you would have we have our fast login box or button that appears on client sites. The first time that you use fast login, you put in your email address, hit fast login, and you receive, and this all happens from the site you're trying to log into, say Airtable, and you receive an email with a magic link to click, right? A little green button that gets emailed to you. And when you click the little green button, it authenticates you, right? We now know that you're in control of the email address. We authenticate you based on your email. And it logs you directly into the site that you're trying to log into, say Airtable. Now, once you've done that, Fast now knows who you are. So now if you're on another site that's Fast enabled, there's no reason for you to re-authenticate yourself. And so now it's just a one-click login on the next site that uses Fast. And in fact, we'll even preload your email address into that Fast box. So you don't have to type that again. And it's because fundamentally, the thing that's broken about authentication is not passwords. I mean, passwords are broken and they just need to be eliminated. But the reality is it's the first party authentication is the thing that's broken. So every company replicates this token or replicates the login functionality over and over and over again. And by using a third party, much like the sort of Facebook Connect or Google login, that style of third party login, it takes away the friction and makes authentication and logging in and registering so much faster.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not something that a consumer can like someone like me can put onto Airtable or HubSpot. This is something that they put on their site, and if it's on their site, I can log in through Fast. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So we integrate with the website, and the reason we've taken that route instead of being, a sort of browser extension or password manager or something else is the way that I look at it is that they are Band-Aid fixes to essentially the same problem, right? And so we have the same conclusion that logging in is too hard, and we also have the conclusion that if there's severe security problems with passwords, right? Phishing attacks, credential stuffing attacks. It's horrific, the sort of state of passwords. But we have the fact of authentication, making authentication easier, is that we think there needs to be an easier method for a consumer. Band-Aid, Chrome extensions and, password managers, they sort of abstract the password away while still actually having it there under the surface, and a consumer can install it, and it's a partial solution for that one consumer only. When we integrate with a website, 100% of that company's audience is now, has their authentication problem solved. Every single user doesn't need to use password. Every single user can now log in easily, and then they can log in easily to every other site that uses Fast as well. So it gives businesses the ability to actually control how easy it is for consumers to log into their site, whereas consumer-led solutions mean and at the moment password managers have like 3 or 4% install rates. So, it's a very small group of consumers who actually have any type of solution in place, and it's really a lackluster solution, password managers anyway.
Yeah, that's super smart. That's I definitely wouldn't have thought of that, but now that you mention it, it's just it's almost the obvious choice. And now that you're kind of pioneering in the space, that's I feel like yeah, I feel like I understand fast so much more now. I'm kind of curious, like wanted to, if I was a company and I wanted to enable a fast login on my website to kind of join like kind of the fast network, what
Yeah.
process would I go through to add a fast button to my website?
Yeah. So, I'm a firm believer in taking the friction away in business. And so one, product is designed to make it very, very easy to be used by consumers. It's also designed to make it very, very easy to be installed by businesses, right? So we take the friction away from every possible component. So we have plugins for most major platforms. So if you're running on any major CMS platform, e-commerce platform, we typically have an integration for that, so you can install it in like a matter of minutes by installing a plugin or an application or an add-on or an extension, whatever they want to call them. If you're running a custom platform, we've got an open API. There's 2 lines of code to actually put the fast login button on your site into the login page, and then there's like a one simple API call on the back end to be able to authenticate requests. It's much like implementing a capture field, a capture extension into a form on your site. It's basically the same sort of infrastructure to be able to install that. So it's really, really easy to install.
Okay, so that is the login side, the one-click login, and you mentioned that there is another product, the kind of one-click checkout that is in the works or coming out soon. Can you go into how that works or how that's going to work?
Yeah, and so so I sort of refer to them as products just for ease of sort of exchangeability. The reality is they're tapping into the exact same network. Installing one or the other will have the exact same process, the same application you can install through the plugin. Same plugin, same extension, can run both login and checkout. So if you kind of think the checkout works in the same way as login in terms of the first time you log in, we authenticate you. Then after that, it's just one-click login. Checkout works in the same way, right? The first time you give us your checkout details, now every other site that has fast checkout, suddenly it's one-click checkout. It unlocks this, it's incredibly frictionless to onboard consumers. It means that for consumers, they just take their normal action the first time through us. Obviously, it's a conversion optimized form. We'll get them through there faster. It's a lot easier to use than a sort of standard checkout. But at the same time, it's the second checkout, it's the third checkout. It's just that magical experience, right? There's no need for you to re-enter that information again. It doesn't matter that you're on a new site now. It doesn't matter that it's a completely different company, because Fast is sitting there, in the middle. We make that so much easier.
So I hear the word network effects thrown around a lot in companies
Yep.
that I personally don't believe have any network effects.
Yep.
But as you're talking, and you haven't even said the word yet, but as you're talking, I'm realizing I feel like Fast will have or already has one of the strongest network effects that one can have. Can you kind of go into your thoughts on growing fast and growing adoption, as obviously the more you grow, the more valuable it becomes, and it's just kind of a flywheel?
Yeah, exactly. So we have, so essentially both of our, the sort of fast stack is a two-sided marketplace, right? You've got a marketplace for retailers, marketplace for consumers. Now, it's obviously very hard to grow a two-sided marketplace. In saying that, my last startup was a two-sided marketplace as well, and that company grew to, we did $50 million over 4 years. So growing two-sided marketplaces are a little bit of my sort of sweet spot. But at the same time, we actually have these beautiful wedges in a market in that the first iteration of Fast was as a passwordless login. The utility of a passwordless login is incredibly valuable for businesses, right? So take away every network effect in our business. Just looking at the utility of a passwordless login has a lot of value, right? There's a lot of companies now implementing sort of magic links directly into their site as an alternative to passwords. Medium, Slack, all these sort of brands are going down this route, and it's becoming more prevalent. So we use that utility, that wedge of the passwordless login, as an initial driver for fast login. And it means that sites can implement fast login to get the passwordless authentication on their site without having to do any engineering work. It's really, really simple for them to just integrate that instead of building that themselves. the reality is that once we have that, every business that integrates for us, obviously all of their consumer base start using Fast, right? Or very, very large. Our integration rates, our sort of engagement rates amongst consumers is tremendously high. And so obviously every business unlocks this huge volume of consumers, and every additional website that comes on starts spinning that flywheel faster. In the same side, every consumer that uses Fast obviously starts spinning that flywheel faster as well, because there's more businesses that want to engage with us, the bigger the network of consumers. So yeah, it's a really incredible, and on the checkout side, it's the same thing, right? It's the first time we have a conversion optimized checkout form that's faster than that at checking out on a merchant site than their own checkout form. But at the same time, it's the second time logins that have that drive that real real increase in scale and conversion opportunity for additional merchants. So yeah, both sides of the marketplace spin that flywheel faster.
So something that I've seen on Twitter recently, or it might have been in podcasts, I'm not sure, but is this thought on that if you are trying to grow a company and grow user adoption, you shouldn't actually hire a large growth team to grow. You should just take all that money that you would invest into growth and just put it into product and make the product 10 times better. And in your answer that you just kind of gave me, it was very engineering centric, product centric. I'm kind of curious to hear, how do you think about growing fast? And is it a product-like growth? Is it, marketing-like growth? Is it all of the above? I'm interested to hear how you're thinking about that moving forward.
Yeah, so I think every business is different, right? And so no two are the same. I think some businesses definitely lend themselves well to consumer type marketing, which will help grow a marketplace. And in that regard, and I sort of counsel some startups, and recently a really close friend of mine who's a founder has got a very great sort of growing marketplace startup, and one of the key things I said for him to spend money on is a growth team. So I definitely think that some businesses just lend themselves well to this, to that style of growth. For us, we're B2B2C, right? So if we were a B2C, like a password manager, we'd be hiring a growth team to try and advertise to consumers to download this app, or, download the extension, or, Honey has been acquired for a huge amount, they go after the consumer directly. That's their channel. For us, we integrate with websites, we integrate with businesses. So we are, a traditional sort of B2B play is really our core distribution strategy, as opposed to a sort of B2C distribution. Although anytime we sort of brand ourselves or market ourselves, we very much talk to consumers, because that's the end user is the consumer. It's just that the business is sort of picking up the bill. So for us, in that regard, product and engineering, solving the pain points for the business is the number one sort of goal, because that's what gets us distribution. It's just that once we have that distribution, then the flywheel starts turning very, very quickly, and we don't necessarily need to then push the consumer marketing over the top.
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense. So now I want to shift to what I'm really looking forward to, is looking forward and thinking about the product vision for Fast and what your plan is, the master plan. So I'd just love to hear whatever you're open to sharing. What is your vision for Fast, and kind of what direction are you rowing to over the next decade?
Yeah, so the way I see it is that everything, in the consumer's life is replicated at the moment, right? Every interaction we have with organizations, companies, with businesses, with government is, we do that from scratch. It's actually really hard to be a consumer, right? We're continually onboarding ourselves everywhere. And every interaction we have with a business is the consumer working to sort of fit themselves into the structure of the company, right? So we go to a company's website and fill in their forms, and everything is about sort of structuring ourselves to deal with this business and this organization. And so you can see that in authentication, is that we go through that process. We can see that again in checkout. It's the same thing every time. And it's really difficult because everything's done first party. That's the core challenge. And so I think the same thing is true for data. And you can tell from my sort of funny accent that I'm Australian, and I moved here recently this year. I have, an American phone number now. I moved my family here last weekend, so they're brand new here. It's like their fourth night in the city, but I've been here for 5 months, and I've got 2 little kids. like none of my kids' emergency contacts in Australia for 5 months had my current contact details, right? So if something had have happened to my kids, no one would have known how to contact me. I would have had no idea. Like that's like as a parent, that's a really scary thought, right? This drastic need for us to be able to share data with people who need access to this data. But because everything's done first party, like I couldn't even tell you who has all these emergency contacts, like where they're stored, all the places that I would need to update, let alone have the time to go and update them. I don't think anyone's ever updated an emergency contact, right? And so there's a real need for an intermediary to sit in between to manage that process and scale the data sharing between people at the request of consumers, right? Not at the sort of behest of advertisers, but at the real request of consumers, and have that sort of transparent link between a consumer and the people who are going to be subscribed to different data points. And that, I think, that becomes those three pillars: authentication, payments, and data are the sort of three key pillars, I think, of Fast. And our role is that intermediary to make every consumer to organization interaction scale, so that the consumer doesn't need to keep doing that hard work, right? So that we can just be human, we can control our data, can control, have much better sort of time optimization, and and just wrap that into a nice service.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and I think the approach that you're taking is nothing short of genius. I'm gonna like kind of share this to everyone because I just think that it's such a cool idea. And what's cool about Fast is that I feel like everyone kind of, when they add a Fast button to their website, they're kind of joining, like in some way, a community or like a network of people that also have Fast. Do you use that at all to help you acquire customers? As like, or is that why some people sign up? It's like, oh, I want to be part of Fast because they're part of Fast and I like them, so I want to be part. Like, do you see a network effect in that sense?
It's really funny that we literally get fan mail from all around the world now, from people who just, who don't even have websites, that they just hear about what we're doing and they just love the thought of it. And this is, it's a really amazing business that every person you see, every internet connected consumer in the world should be our customer in a few years, right? They should be our user in a few years. And it's, everyone wants this product to exist, right? And it's obviously one-click login and one-click checkout is great. I think the idea of this sort of one-click data sharing is amazing. When we walk into the doctor, we shouldn't have to fill in paper-based forms anymore. We've already got this information there. Like, our life should be simpler, and we should have the ability to not have to call our banks and our telcos to tell them we've moved address, right? It's just, we shouldn't have to do that anymore. The idea of this is what everyone wants. And I think it's one business that everyone can explain this to their parents and their grandparents, and they actually understand what we do as a company, right? They understand the product and they want the product to exist, right? They hate using passwords. Thanksgiving is next week. Around every dinner table in this country, people are going to have their parents saying, can you help me reset my iTunes password, right? Because I've been locked out for 2 weeks. It is going to be like top of mind issue for everyone. And I think it's that effect that is building this community of consumers, building community of merchants, of investors, of just supporters, because this is a company that needs to exist. And none of the sort of none of the big existing players can engage in this because they've all got sort of vested interests, right? And it needs to be a company that is, led by people, is really protecting people, is driving, consumer, is driven by consumer demand, but really driven by consumer privacy efforts as well. And that, our business is in helping you pay or helping you log in or helping you share data if and when you want to, and not when you don't.
That's great. I really like that. So I want to kind of target in on something you mentioned a few answers ago, which is you recently moved to San Francisco and your family just moved to San Francisco. I'm kind of curious. I spent 3 months the beginning of this year in San Francisco for an accelerator, and I wanted to make the best use of my time while there. But I think there is different ways that I could have optimized my time for like max, productivity in some sense. So I'm kind of curious, how did you spend your first month in San Francisco? I'd love to hear just the activities that you spent time on, who you met, what you did, just to kind of hear how you thought about that.
Yeah, so I came over here with virtually no network, in fact, I had an introduction to one VC who happened to be Australian, and who actually who just as a sort of social connection more than anything, to be honest, not because he was a VC, and and so we came over with no one. So I just started cold outreach, right? And we just got cold outreach on Twitter or on LinkedIn, and we just reach out to anyone who would listen to me, who was working at big tech companies mainly, right? And it wasn't about I had just raised a friends and family sort of angel round in Australia. I came over here, days later, as soon as the money hit the account, we sort of could fly over here, and just started talking to people. And I would reach out and say, "Hi, I'm an Aussie founder. I'm here in SF. Love to tell you what we're up to." And it sort of gets you, it's just weird enough that it'll kind of get you sit at the table for a little bit, and then after that, you've got to try and be normal again to try and keep them interested. But I would do that, and it was, and I would just meet with lots and lots and lots and lots of people, and I still do. I mean, today I've got 17 meetings today. Like, I still do this. A lot of them hiring, like we're recruiting like crazy, and so most of them around hiring. But just generally, I meet with a lot of people, and I think that, again, that's helped to build the community that we've got now. I think it's just, I definitely, speed. I work really hard. This is what I'm here to do. Like, and I think that we have this really big mission, this great product story that the world wants to have. I don't really have time to not be engaging in that. So I just, all the activity that I could fit into a day, I do. Yeah.
I would love for you to explain a little further a segment of what you've just mentioned, in that you said that because you're an Aussie founder, but you're here in SF, it was just unique enough, or I think you said weird enough, that it got you a seat at the table for a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you kind of describe what you mean there? Can you drill down?
Yeah, look, there's so much noise in the world, right? Like, you've got to, just generally speaking, to do anything interesting, like, there's just a lot of noise. I mean, in SF, how many startups start every single week, right? I don't know the answer to that, but it would be a lot, right? There's just a lot of companies here. There's a lot of stuff. If you just, walk around and said you're a founder, like half of the people you just see on the street are founders here. There's nothing interesting about being a founder in this place. There's nothing interesting about having, a company in this place. You've really got to do stuff different. And I think you've got to find what that, little hook is. For me, just being Aussie is kind of enough. And I think we're sort of universally liked. We're probably thought, we might be, thought down of a little bit. We're kind of like the lost little puppy in the corner occasionally, I think. But most people are sort of pretty open to just engaging with that. And so it's like, if that is if you know that people are going to engage with that, then use it. So yeah, anyway, that's kind of what I would use as my initial hook. But I always say, I speak to a lot of Aussie founders who come over here to fundraise, and I'm happy sort of being their sort of their first doorstep. And I always say that saying you're an Aussie founder will get, especially with VCs, will get you a meeting. A lot of the time, or at least it'll start a conversation, right? It's a little bit unique. It's just, it's something different to normal. But at the same time, now you've got to de-risk it, because now you're an Aussie founder, and it's actually risk in being a company a person that's from the other side of the world. Are you going to be able to hire here? Are you based here? If you're not, like, you can't, they're not going to be able to attend board meetings, externally. So there is risk after that point. Like, no one wants no one wants to invest in like a crazy person, right? So you want to be different, but not different enough that it actually becomes a sort of an issue for you.
Yeah, the startup game and the investing game is quite a ride and quite fun. And I feel like you're very well positioned, at least from my perspective, to do really big things in the startup world and build a giant company, which is exciting. That kind of leads me to my two final questions before we wrap this up. I appreciate you coming on. This has been a fascinating conversation, and I'm literally going to be the biggest evangelist for Fast now. And you mentioned earlier in the conversation and in previous podcasts that this is not your first rodeo. You've done companies and startups before, and here at Fast, you're just in the beginning stages of building something that could be really big. I'd love to hear some advice that you have for someone listening who wants to start a company, who wants to solve a problem, but doesn't necessarily know the first step into how to do that.
Look, I think the first step is there's never been an easier time to start companies, right? So, for anyone who wants to start a company, go to Stripe, use Stripe Atlas, and you can incorporate, a Delaware C Corp so easily now. You can, there's so many free tools and no code tools. If you're not an engineer, you can, build a website. You can build an actual application now, right? You can build web apps. You can build mobile apps. You can actually build like a whole startup without actually needing any engineering talent. And so, things like Airtable and Notion, and these incredible tools that you can actually use these days. So, I think that there's never been an easier time to start. I think starting is not the difficult part. It's sort of scaling, but not scaling to a tremendous degree. It's kind of going from once you've got a product to how do I get people to use it, and that's where people tend to kind of go, well, I'll just raise money so I won't actually have to talk to customers. Like it's not a great outcome. I'm not saying that you shouldn't raise money or that there isn't, that there isn't a place for VC at all. Like there definitely is. And, we're obviously a venture-backed company, but it doesn't replace customers. Like you need to be solving a real problem, and you can't solve a real problem unless you're speaking to the people whose problem you're solving. And so if you're not solving a real problem, then you need to, change what you're doing. And so I think that's the biggest challenge that most people have is actually just going out and talking to people who would be their potential customers and working out exactly what the problem is. I think that's the number one thing that people need to do more of.
I like that a lot. I find something that I've been kind of harping on a lot on Medium and just kind of everywhere is that when you build a product, your first step should not be to run Facebook ads. Because if you're running Facebook ads, it means you're automating, the relationship, the most important relationship that you can have, which is with your customers. Obviously, Facebook ads are good, but if you just do Facebook ads, it's not gonna work out. And a lot of people say I'm crazy by saying that. I'm just like, yeah. I guess we'll see, but I fully agree with kind of what you just said. The final question that I have for you, and this is a newer type of question that I ask on the podcast, but I think it's becoming one of my favorites, is you are building a startup, and startups are really hard. And sometimes as a founder, you can use all the help you can get when someone offers it. So my question to you is, you got all these listeners listening, I'm having a conversation with you, and we all want to help startups that interest us. So my question to you is, what is an ask that you have for the forward-thinking founders community, or what is something that you need help with that potentially 1 or 2 or 10 or 100 people listening can help you out with?
So the number one thing is hiring at the moment. So we're building a big but a very strong team at the moment. We've got some incredible people coming from, we have an exodus coming, I think, from a lot of the big tech companies into Fast, but we can't have that come soon enough as well. And we've, that the groundswell is happening, but the best engineers, best product people, the best designers. We're really building a world-class team, and we'd love to have more people joining us. So happy to have referrals. If you're sitting in, if you've had high growth experience, if you're a great engineer, great product person, a great designer, and you want to build, a product that's going to be used by billions of people, then that's, we really want to hear from these folks. And all walks of life, we are trying to build a very diverse team. We don't want a whole company of people to look and sound like me. That'd be strange. And so we definitely want, we just want to speak to good folks. Yeah.
All right. Well, you all heard it. If you're looking for a role or know someone that is, who to get in touch with. I guess my final question is, if someone wants to learn more about Fast, get in touch with you, apply for a job, how do they find you online? How do they find Fast online?
Sure. So Twitter's probably our best social network. You can either go to @fast, @FAST, or you can reach me at Domm, DOMM, or you can go to fast.co and you can send us an email to hi@fast.co.
All right, Domm, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. As I said, I think this product is fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it grows.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.